Mine either. So, Carol Padgham Albrecht is our first speaker. We're going to begin our international journey this afternoon in 18th century Vienna, Austria, as Carol Padgham Albrecht, an oboist and music historian from the Lionel Hampton School of Music, takes us on a tour of palaces, churches, and municipal archives. All of you are probably aware and familiar with the music of Mozart and Beethoven, but do you know anything about the wider culture that supported their musical achievements? Curiosity about the lives and careers of these musicians, many of them opera singers, many of them women, drew Carol to begin this research as a doctoral student in 1998, and she has begun her career teaching at UI in the late 1980s. Carol taught herself to read survival German in order to live as a researcher in Austria and learned how to read 18th century Korintschrift, which is an old-fashioned German handwriting, in order to tell the stories of forgotten figures in the history of classical music. Please welcome Carol.
Thank you very much, Janet and Scott and Phil and Jeremy for selecting me and helping me out here. My students will tell you they're really happy when I don't sing, but I do enjoy playing the oboe quite a bit, and I started my career as an oboist. But I've always been interested in the music of Mozart and Beethoven and the surrounding culture, and but they both wrote pretty nicely for the oboe. And it's really been a great joy for the past 20 years to make annual trips to Vienna for research. This is an opportunity I never could have dreamed. I couldn't have planned it, but it's just been a wonderful thing. But anyway, Mozart, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, lived in Vienna for about 10 years. And if you've seen the movie Amadeus, you're probably quite familiar with him. Ludwig van Beethoven initially came just on a study trip. He actually had a study grant from his employer in Bonn, Germany, but he ended up staying in Vienna because there was a little fracas called the French Revolutionary Wars. One of the iconic images of Vienna, of course, is St. Stephen's Cathedral. And for a short time, Mozart actually lived around the corner from it. He got married when he was living there, and you can actually look at his marriage record in the archive. A lot of the 18th century architecture still survives, and Professor Pamela Bathurst and I enjoyed a very wonderful dinner in a restaurant called Weinhaus Sittel, which you'll see in just a moment. But that's one of the neat things about Vienna, is that a lot of the 18th century atmosphere still remains. You can sit right at the foot of the big tree there and enjoy a nice dinner in the inner court. The base of the tree is about 8 feet long, and it was probably planted in 1752 when the building was erected. So anyway, we talk a lot about sustaining research, and by golly, that takes food. And, you probably think of Wiener Schnitzel, Vienna and everything. This is a Topfen strudel, which is nice pieces of flaky dough with a ricotta cheese and raisin filling with a big blob of whipped cream along the side. It just doesn't hurt. But one of the great things is that you can also see what the surrounding countryside looks like. And some of the people who in the 18th century used to live out here and have their fancy summer houses would hire musicians to play. The religious calendar is very important too. I was just talking with Florian over here about our favorite saint, Saint Florian. On the festival of Fronleichnam, or Corpus Christi, is a very important religious holiday, usually in May or June, and the archives shut down. So you have to go do something fun. The Palais Lobkowitz is a lovely building in the central city, and Prince Lobkowitz was a longtime patron of Ludwig van Beethoven. And the view here is just coming out of the music room upstairs, where a lot of Beethoven's symphonies were rehearsed and premiered. The theater was really important. The court supported this particular theater, the Burgtheater. It's the small building on the right. The one next to it is the Imperial Riding School. So I guess that means that athletics overshadowed the theater just a little bit. But then they built a bigger one, is okay. The court also operated another theater, the Kärntnertor Theater, which has long since been torn down. But if you're familiar with Viennese culture, the Soccer Hotel, home of the Soccer Torte, we're back to food, stands in the same place, and it looks pretty much the same. So I spent a lot of my time at this place called the Wiener Stadt- und Landesarchiv, the Vienna City and Municipal Archive, where I use a variety of sources: death records, estate records, housing and draft records, and then other catalogs to help fill in a lot of the details for the people I'm looking for. Right here, the document that's in front of me is an estate record from a singer by the name of Magdalena Willmann Galvani, who was one of Beethoven's early loves. He proposed to her, and she turned him down because she thought he was ugly and crazy. But one of the challenges, as Janet mentioned, is reading the old handwriting. And this is a particularly clear example. It's called Kurrentschrift, and most of the letters really don't look like their modern day analogs, but you have to decode that. This is a baptismal record, and all of these things together really help you find out things like familial ties. Estate records can give you a sense of a person's standard of living, of course, their familial relationships, occupations, all kinds of things. The Austrian Theater Museum Library is another one of my favorite places. It's located in the Lobkowitz Palace upstairs. And you can see that it's a pretty nicely laid out facility, very comfortable to work in. And the collections of playbills is really marvelous. These are great treasures. And normally what you'll find in them are the day's offerings in the two theaters. Generally the Court Theater, the Burgtheater on the left, and the Kärntnertor Theater on the right here. That's my husband, Ted, holding them up, and so you can see just how the format is. But it's a special treat. Sometimes you'll see concert programs, and I was just thrilled to find one day a playbill that pretty much wraps up my whole career. It was for an oboe concert by a man by the name of Sebastian Grohmann, featuring a completely unknown performance of an early Mozart chamber work that I like, and then an equally unknown young pianist by the name of Mademoiselle Kramer, whose name is Rosa. And then I discovered that she has an illegitimate brother. But I think my 7 minutes are up, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. It sounds like we have a teaser to ask about that illegitimate brother during the break. So I'd like to present you, Carol, with a little token of our thanks. And thank you so much for, for being here. Thanks. Thanks, Carol. That cliffhanger, huh? I'm going to be thinking about that.